Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. This is an episode that I was not anticipating making, but boy, am I super excited and happy to make it. You ever get an episode one time where it's just like, man, everything just lines up for you. Everything you're just absolutely hoping you're going to get as far as a topic, just everything seems to fall right smack dab in your lap. That is exactly what this episode is for me. Now, what exactly am I referring to? What I'm referring to is that yesterday, reports came out from the Chicago Bears that just absolutely show how, I'm just going to put it for what it is, it already sounds like the Bears are in trouble. It sounds like they have already failed epically in regards to getting ready for training camp, getting ready for the 2025 season. It just already sounds like that the Bears are in trouble. And the reason why is based upon, obviously, if we're talking about the Bears and we're talking about, what's going on in Chicago, we're talking about Ben Johnson. We're talking about Caleb Williams. We are talking about all of the nonsense that has been surrounding those two individuals, primarily Ben Johnson, because of what has happened this offseason. Again, obviously for us Lions fans, we know the situation when it comes to how Ben Johnson got to become the head coach of the Chicago Bears. We know all the background story. We know all of the, narratives. We know all the storylines. Blah, 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 blah. But for this particular report that we're about to talk about here, we're talking about how reports have come out that Caleb Williams and the Bears offense under Ben Johnson, when they came out yesterday for their very first day of training camp, it has already come out that there are reports that are showing that all of the extra time that Caleb Williams has been spending at the facility to be ready to, not only start running Ben Johnson's offense, to try and successfully implement it, get it ready for the 2025 season, to try and turn over a new leaf in Chicago. All of those reports that we have heard this entire offseason about, Caleb Williams getting ready for all that, it has proved that all of that extra time, it has shown that all of, the supposed narratives, all of the supposed conversation, all of the supposed, hyping up that has been about the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, it all came yesterday to show that it is already starting to prove to be unfruitful. As in the very first day of training camp yesterday, the Bears' offense, it failed so miserably during practice that Ben Johnson, at a point, was so aggravated, he was so angry, he was so frustrated with his starters that he got on the field, he was on the field, and he told his number ones, he told the starters of the offense, "You're out. Pretty much, you're done. Get the hell off the field. You guys have screwed up so badly, I need you out of here. I need to put in somebody else because you guys are absolutely just, doing a terrible job about what you're supposed to be doing." Now, how exactly did this whole thing come to be? Well, if you go based off of the reports that have been coming out since yesterday, there were a couple of instances that happened during practice for the Bears yesterday that got us to this point to where Ben Johnson absolutely just lost his patience, lost his cool, and just absolutely being aggravated, told his starters, "Listen, you're out. You're done. Get off the field." First thing that happened is you start talking about, when you're talking about the first day of training camp, obviously you're talking about offensive install, you're talking about offensive implementation, all that nonsense. Well, reports came out that during the very first play of 11 on 11, Caleb Williams was picked off by lineman Tremaine Edwards. Now, why is this important? Well, the reason why this is important is because for the very first play of an offensive install, for the very first play of 11 on 11, the absolute last thing you want at all to see is your offense turn the ball over. You especially do not want to see that in regards to the fact that Ben Johnson, for all of the hype, for all of the, clamor that he has had coming into Chicago, you do not want to see your new quarterback, the quarterback that you've hyped up, that you've talked up so much during this offseason, very first play gets picked off by the freaking linebacker, by the defense. That is just something you do not want to see. Yes, it's practice. Yes, you're allowed to make mistakes. Yes, that is where you're supposed to make mistakes. But you don't want to see that on the very first play. Other reports that came out show that there were further struggles for the offense, especially early on during the day, that the offense continually had problems, continually struggled to try and execute the plays from Ben Johnson. So not only was it Caleb Williams who was having a problem, it was the offense in general who was having a problem. It was the offense in general who simply could not get their whole act together so that way they could actually have a good practice for the majority of the day. But the final straw that broke the camel's back, that just absolutely made Ben Johnson tell the entire offense, his first string offense, to get off the field, you're out, was when they then went to 7-on-7s and the offense twice botched lining up correctly. I mean, dude, when you're talking about the very first play of 11-on-11s, your quarterback gets picked off. He throws the pass to the wrong person. It's an interception. Then you're talking about how the offense in general, it's struggling to execute plays. It's not getting guys in the right spot. Guys are not doing their assignments correctly. And so they're constantly struggling to get plays done correctly. But then when you talk about getting into 7-on-7 and the head coach gets so aggravated with what's going on because of the fact of everything else, but then you cannot line up correctly in 7-on-7. Think about that. It's 7-on-7. You have only wide receivers, quarterback, and running backs out there. That's it. And yet your skill position guys, they cannot line up correctly. They can't get made sure that they're in the right spot, make sure that, hey, you know what? We have enough guys on the line that we're supposed to have. We have enough guys off the line that we're supposed to have. Everybody's where they're supposed to be. This is basic 101 stuff, dude. This is basic 101 offensive install. This is stuff that should be very, very easy to understand, especially if you believe all the reports about how Caleb Williams has been spending time extra at the facility, making sure he's been getting guys supposedly up to speed, trying to take a leadership role in the offense. All of these reports are just bad news. Again, kind of goes back to the old movie Bad News Bears. It's like, yeah, this is just not a good look for the Bears. And then, again, other reports from other people were stating that in some cases, there was the appearance that Caleb Williams was uncomfortable trying to lead and run Ben Johnson's offense. As, you know, you're talking about this practice period that was going on for, like, if I recall correctly reading the reports, it was like 75-ish minutes. So you're talking about almost an hour and a half where the offense is trying to run things and your quarterback looks uncomfortable. Your quarterback's turning the ball over. Your offense is struggling to run plays. And then on top of that, in 7-on-7s, when the offensive skill players should know formations, they should know how to line up, they should know what they're doing, they botch it twice, and they absolutely just, draw the ire of their brand new head coach. I mean, dude, you're talking about an offense that just quite literally embarrassed itself. Failed epically day one. Now, let's just call it for what it is. That in of itself for us Lions fans, that makes us feel so good. That makes us just absolutely smile and want to laugh our ever-living heads off. But here's what I find funny about this, is that after that news already came out, Boy, if you did not see the Bears media and Bears fans, they are all trying their damn level best to do damage control and spin the narrative that, oh, you know what, it's only day one, and you know what, it's practice, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. Ben Johnson is still the best thing for the team, and Caleb Williams, and it's like, okay, I get it. Bears fans, Bears media, they're going to do what they're going to do to try and make it look as good as possible. They don't want to already start having issues that are going to, snowball effect into other things. I get it. That's what fans, that's what media is going to try and do. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Trying to spin this, it shows the sheer amount of desperation that Bears fans and Bears media will go to just to try and not admit that things won't be as easy as they have arrogantly proclaimed the entirety of the offseason when they got the news that Ben Johnson was going to be their head coach. Because let's remember something here. Bears fans conveniently want to forget these facts when it comes to offense. Number one. Let's go back to Detroit here. Let's go back to Ben Johnson as the offense coordinator. Let's go back to Jared Goff. I remember very distinctly, Ben Johnson never had to pull Goff or the entire offense of the Lions starters from a practice because they were performing so poorly that it's like, you know what, I can't deal with you guys. I need to put in the backups because I just simply need a break from you guys constantly just crucifying the offense because obviously your brains are not working correctly. I don't recall that ever happening in, the freaking 3 years that Ben Johnson was the offense coordinator here in Detroit. Never, ever once recall that happening. Oh, sure, the Lions offense had days where they didn't perform particularly well, but never so badly that Ben Johnson was like, listen, you guys are just absolutely screwing everything up. I need you guys to get off the field and get your minds right. Never happened. Number two, I'm going to tell you this right now. I do not remember a time where Jared Goff ever struggled running the offense. In fact, again, even though there were times where the offense was, getting outperformed by the defense, which again, that's going to happen in practice sometimes. Every day, it's going to be a different battle as far as who's going to get the day, as far as who's going to win the majority of the reps. But I never ever recall Jared Goff struggling so much in running the offense. In fact, more often than not, even when the offense was first getting installed back in 2022, the offense always seemed to flow seamlessly. And one thing that was definitely for certain is Goff was always in total command of the offense. There was never reports that, Goff looks uncomfortable, he's not really enjoying being in this offense, blah, 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 blah. Never a report like that ever came out. Number three, I'm going to just tell you this right now. When Goff was actually working to build the offense with Ben Johnson and Johnny Morton, he spent the better part of the offseason, just like Caleb Williams did in 2022 when this offense was being built, actually getting ready for the offensive install, getting ready for offensive execution, making sure he understood everything, and that he was ready for when day one occurred and the offense was going to be put into place. And yet, again, I do not remember any such reports of the failings of the epic, miserable time that the Lions supposedly had with their offensive install back in day one, compared to all of the supposed reports that we heard from Caleb Williams about how all the time he was spending extra at, the facility, trying to make sure that he was on page, trying to make sure he was getting the Bears' offensive players on page, trying to take a leadership role. I do not remember ever Jared Goff having the issues that he had as far as, feeling comfortable with the offense running what it was supposed to do compared to what we've been hearing already from day one from Chicago Bears training camp. So when you think about all that, all of the supposed work and study that Caleb Williams has been putting in to try and get ready, and again, you start hearing these reports, it's just like, oh, dude, this is something else. Again, you're going to expect some growing pains, but you do not expect a growing pain so great to where your coach literally tells your offense, get the hell off the field in the most, nicest way possible by saying, you're out. Again, you're going to have days where the defense is going to have the offense's number. It's going to happen. But it should not be because of mistakes, correctable, easy mistakes like what the Bears were having day one. Now, I also know this. Bears fans, they'll be quick to say that, you know what, I'm being biased, which, okay, yeah, I'm a Lions fan. What the hell do you expect? But let me just put this here. They're also going to say that I'm being extremely unfair in my harsh debasing of Williams and thus also Johnson, saying that, again, it's their first year together and that Williams is at a disadvantage because, last year he had a poor offensive coordinator and that, that held back his development and that, I'm being way too harsh because, I'm expecting all of this because of all of that. Really? Let me remind y'all something here, Bears fans. Who was the one who spent the entire damn offseason trying to talk this nonsense up and said, oh, you know what? We're going to take over the North. We're going to put you freaking kiddies back in the basement. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, number one, you brought this all on yourselves. But also, number two, I don't know how many times I have tried to tell, not just Bear fans, but everybody, I'm like, you do not know exactly what you're getting yourselves into with this whole Ben Johnson experience. It's not going to be the same. It's not even going to be remotely close to the same in terms of the same success that the Lions had with Ben Johnson or that Ben Johnson had with the Lions. It's not going to happen. And here's the reason why. Because, you want to talk about how Caleb Williams was at a disadvantage because last year he had a poor offensive coordinator? Time out here. 2022, Ben Johnson becomes the new offensive coordinator, right? That's right. Who was our offensive coordinator in 2021? Oh, that's right. It was a bad offensive coordinator in Anthony Lynn. So bad, mind you, he was relieved of his play calling duties by a rookie head coach in Dan Campbell and then was subsequently fired at the end of the season. Then, let's go into this. I know some people are going to say, well, Jared Goff had a hand in building the offense. So, because Jared Goff actually took a leadership role, actually helped build the offense, you're going to now try and say that somehow that is a negative thing in trying to have this conversation? Come on now. Give me a break. Actually take a look at yourself in the mirror and actually, call it fair, and call it spade a spade. Because despite the fact that Goff did have a hand in helping build the offense back in 2022, oh, that's right, he still had to implement it. He still had to work to help it get installed. And by the way, he had to do that with a rookie play caller in Ben Johnson, who had never called plays before, never done anything of the sort prior to 2022. And on top of that, think about this. While they're doing all this new offensive install, while they're trying to get their offense all built up and ready to rock and roll, go back to 2022. Multiple points during the season of 2022, there were multiple starters for the Lions offense that were constantly in and out of the lineup. DJ Chark was dealing with injuries quite a bit, so he was in and out of the lineup quite a bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I know, missed at least a few games in 2022 because I think it was either because of injury, whether it was concussion, whatever the case might be. TJ Hawkinson, that's right, before the midpoint, we traded him to the Vikings. And then, that's right, DeAndre Swift was also dealing with injury quite a bit. So, despite the fact that Jared Goff had a hand in building the offense, that's right, he still was at a disadvantage because rookie play caller, had guys that were constantly in and out of the lineup, but yet, again, let me remind y'all something. The Lions had the 5th best scoring offense in 2022. Despite having a rookie offensive play caller and despite having all those offensive starters being in and out of the lineup. So again, let me just put this out there for you. As I said before, do you honestly think that was because of Ben Johnson? Or maybe, just maybe, in your prepubescent mind who wanted to constantly doubt and wanted to argue the point, maybe Jared Goff was actually as good as I tried to tell you. Maybe Jared Goff was actually that guy that I've been trying to get people to understand who he was over, the last 4-something years. Just maybe. But again, just to drive home this point, let me put something out there for you. Let's go back to 2022, the very first year that Jared Goff was with Ben Johnson. You go back to that year after they had, put all the install together, put that offense on tape, put all the offense out there for everybody to see. Jared Goff that year in 2022 was ranked 6th in passing yards. He was also ranked 6th in pass average. Even though he had a pretty good completion percentage, it was ranked 17th. But was tied 5th in passing touchdowns, ranked 8th in passing touchdown percentage, tied 6th in total interceptions, tied 2nd in interception percentage per throw, ranked 7th in pass rating, and ranked 5th in QBR. So, brand new offensive play caller, just got done implementing a new offense, had all these offensive starters that were constantly going in and out of the lineup, And yet, Jared Goff still produced a pretty much top 5 season almost in terms of statistics. Like, you're talking top 10, fringe top 5 season. And then, just to think about it from this perspective, let me just put this out there for you, because I've talked about this before. If you take a look at the change in terms of total production from 2021 going into 2022, you want to know what the total overall percentage change Jared Goff had in terms of his production from the previous year? It was plus 215.7%. That's a massive change. Again, that's not going to happen from a rookie play caller. That's not going to happen just because you now have a new guy that's calling the plays, especially a guy that never had done it before, especially when he's only responsible at most for building 1/3 of the overall offense. So then, let's think about this. Ben Johnson has already stated that he has these plans, he has these expectations for Caleb Williams going into 2025. Well, wait a minute here. What was Caleb Williams' stats in 2024? Oh, that's right. Caleb Williams was ranked 31st in completion percentage, ranked 17th in passing yards, 33rd in freaking pass average per throw, tied 15 in passing touchdowns, tied 24th in pass touchdown percentage per throw, tied 6th in interceptions, ranked 3rd in interception percentage per throw, ranked 24th in passing rating, and ranked 28th in QBR. I'm going to tell you this right now. When you've got a ranking that is ranked 33rd, that means that all 32 starters that were the primary starters outperforms you. When your pass completion percentage is just barely above the last available starter spot in the league, that's a problem. When your passer rating and your QBR is just a smidge above the bottom, that's a problem. But just think about this. If you want to seriously do some number crunching like what I did, in order for Caleb Williams to match just in some of the areas that Goff had in terms of the production change from his previous year to his first year with Ben Johnson, in order to match that, just in terms of the production change, just think about this. To get the amount of production change that Goff had in terms of his passing yards, which was a near 37% jump, that would mean that Caleb Williams would have to throw for almost 4,800 passing yards. Actually, 4,850. Almost 4,850. In order to get the passing touchdown change, which was an extra 52.65% that Goff had, that would mean that Caleb Williams would have to throw 31 passing touchdowns. In order to get the QBR change that Jared Goff had from 2021 into 2022, which was a plus 39.13%, that would mean that Caleb Williams' QBR would have to be a 65 even. I'm just going to say this right now, folks. There is almost no way in hell that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are going to come even close to matching what Goff was able to do in the very first year under Ben Johnson. And I'm telling you this right now, the reason why it's almost impossible to think they're going to do it is because, number one, as I said, first day of reports, you're already struggling this badly. But also, number two, again, remind me here, no quarterback in Bears history has ever thrown over 4,000 yards. And on top of that, if I recall correctly, what's the maximum that any quarterback has thrown for the Bears in terms of passing touchdowns in a season? If it were 31 passing touchdowns, which Caleb Williams would have to do to match the production total in terms of percentage change that Goff did from 2021 to 22, I think that would be the most that any Bears quarterback has had in franchise history. I'm just telling you this right now. That kind of production, it especially doesn't happen in a one-year jump, number one, but it especially does not happen when your offense is struggling as badly as it did in the very first day, the way that the reports are already telling you. So I'm going to tell you this. Ultimately, what the real epic failure is that by Williams struggling and by, Ben Johnson losing his temper in essence, it proves a number of things to either definitively be correct or possibly correct. Here are the things that it possibly proves to be correct. Number one, Caleb Williams isn't smart enough to implement or to fully comprehend Ben Johnson's offense. Everybody already knew that Ben Johnson's offense was a very complicated, very deep offense. The fact that you spent all this extra time during the offseason to try and understand it, and the very first day you in essence lay a big old goose egg, Makes you wonder just how much of that offense that Caleb Williams can truly comprehend, whereas Jared Goff was able to pick it up and run with it day one. Second thing it possibly proves, Johnson isn't going to be able to get Williams on the same page because, you know what, all these offensive errors, all these offensive miscues. Again, I understand, you're going to try and say it's day one. But, again, for all of the reporting, all of the hype you guys wanted to make about how Caleb Williams was spending all this extra time to get ready and still had this much problem with the very first day, that is not good. And then the third thing it possibly proves to be correct is that offensive additions that the Bears spent all that money for this offseason, they're not as good as advertised. Because let's think about it here. It wasn't just Caleb Williams that struggled. It was the entire Bears offense. And these are guys that, for the most part, are professional veterans. Some of them are the best at what they do. I mean, you got the guard that you freaking picked up from the Chiefs. You got Jonah Jackson. You got DJ Moore. I mean, you've got DeAndre Swift. You've got guys that have been doing this now for quite a bit. Some of them were in Ben Johnson's offense originally back in 2022. And yet, the entire offense struggled. The entire offense was having a problem. So maybe the offensive additions that you actually put in place are not going to work as well together as you thought they were. But here's what it definitely proves, without a shadow of a doubt. Goff was 100% the reason, more so, why the Lions' offense worked over Ben Johnson any damn day of the week. Because think about it. If Goff was not the reason, then Caleb Williams should just been able to pick it up no problem and just should have been, hey, we're off to the races. We're not looking back. But yet again, very first day, falls flat on his face. Second thing that it definitively proves is that John Morton is probably going to go way further and do way better than Johnson ever could. Again, John Morton has had experience as an offensive coordinator in both the NFL and in NCAA, has been a passing game coordinator for multiple seasons. Ben Johnson had none of that experience coming into his role as the offense coordinator for the Detroit Lions. So, considering the fact that already all of the offensive players that have talked about John Morton, they've said he's brilliant, he's a great coach, he knows what he's talking about, and he's making things very easy for us as far as, understanding what he wants. Versus the fact that when Ben Johnson was coming in, it was, we're putting all this stuff together, whereas John Morton was already there, so now it's just we're fine-tuning things, we're just tweaking things, we're just adding things as we go along. John Morton is going to make Ben Johnson look like an afterthought. And then, third thing that it definitely proves is that Ben Johnson was not the reason the Lions' offense was a juggernaut. Because if he was, again, Caleb Williams would have done better for all of the supposed offseason studying and work that he put in. But yet, Ben Johnson, for being such a great coach, could not even get his quarterback on the same page for the day one install. Not good. And then the fourth thing that it proves is that, definitively, the Lions' culture and team building is emphatically better than the Bears. Because it's like, listen, again, I did not at once ever hear from any Lions reporter or any outside reporter that, the Lions are having such a problem with their offense and their team being able to get on the same page. Never once heard that. Oh, sure, there might have been rumblings that, maybe a player or two is having an issue, or maybe the practice had to be stopped because some players were getting a little too physical. But never because, the units are just that poorly out of sync. They're just that poorly off page from what the coaches are trying to do. We have to shut everything down, and we got to put in the backups because the offense or the defensive starters are just absolutely off kilter. Never once happened. So again, when I tell you this is what I call great news. This is what I call fun news. This is what I call, it is just delicious. And I hope you guys out there enjoy this. And I hope you Bears fans enjoy crying into your soup. Because trust me, this is going to be a topic that's going to get talked about throughout the rest of training camp. Probably even going into, preseason. Because it's like, hey, you know what? For all of the freaking jockey and all of the freaking, proclaiming you did, this is no way in hell going to be something you're going to be able to just laugh off and say, it doesn't matter. It does matter. And trust me, I ain't going to let you forget about it. But anyway, having said that, I just want to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things, like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you enjoyed the content, I hope to gain your subscription. But if you've watched in the past and have not subscribed, again, I also hope to gain your subscription. And if you have subscribed, hopefully you'll also go the extra step and make sure to hit that bell notification icon. Hope everyone out there has something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.